So, as you know, school year's ended, and this is an independent research project, and I'm doing this independent research project on the physics of electric wood burning art. And I know it sounds kind of bizarre, but basically it's this really cool thing where you take a piece of wood and then you set up this whole thing, which I'll explain later in the video, and you basically create this really cool design of electricity over the wood, and it's so awesome. I really want to try it this summer and like set it all up, so because it's so cool. So electric wood art physics. So what this is basically fractal wood burning, in that it's essentially burning lightning bolts into wood using voltage electricity. And the voltage comes from a transformer, and a lot of people take apart microwaves for this because the transformers in the microwaves or microwave ovens are used and are really good for this. And it applies electricity on the conductive solution that is placed on top of the wood to add the high voltage electricity, which gives it like that lightning bolt effect. And that lightning bolt effect, it relates to the Lichtenberg figures. And what the Lichtenberg figures are, it's basically shapes that are in the shape of lightning bolts, and they're very commonly seen in like ice, and they just kind of look like lightning bolts. And so how lightning bolts are formed is when there's a thunderstorm and everything, the negatively charged clouds are, since it's such a big potential difference, electric potential difference between the negatively charged clouds and the positively charged grounds, when the electrons flow from negative to positive, it creates that like spark, which is lightning. And that is essentially what's happening, just in a very mini form, in the wood art that's being created. So what you really need for this is you need something to run on high voltage power, or like a source, which is, because that's the transformer and that's what the microwave kind of comes into play. And you need like a fan, a water container, brushes to like paint on the solution, a microwave to take apart, extension cords like jumper cables, bucket, electric supply, and which is like an outlet, wood, water, baking soda, or salt. And so then what a lot of people use for this is a 10 kilovolt high voltage insulator. And then a lot of people use insulators because it burns the wood really easily. And then for the wires, a lot of people use copper wires because copper wires produce electricity and they are good conductors, and so it makes the flow of energy through the wood a lot easier. So this also generates hydrogen, and hydrogen creates spark. So ignore that, my brother. So when the conductive solution is put on the wood and then everything's plugged in to the power supply, hydrogen is essentially released very quickly, and it creates like sparks, which creates the Lichtenberg figures. And so then to help energy flow easier and just so you can control it better, instead of putting everything in series, you're supposed to put the wires in parallel because it's easier to control. And then to make the wood conductive, which is a very important part of this whole thing, what you're supposed to do is mix together water and baking soda, or like water and salt, and then paint it on the wood, so that, because water is a conductor, and that's why you don't put water on fires, because not conductors, but water does not put out fire. Water makes fire bigger. So then, yeah, this allows the electricity to flow a lot easier and a lot quicker. And then essentially it creates these little pathways, so using the grains of the wood. So once the water and salt mixture kind of like saturates, once it saturates the wood, the electricity goes through the little grains, and the salt or baking soda are good conductors, and it kind of, well, the water's the good conductor, and it just like moves around the little grains and creates the little lightning bolts of electricity. And it's really, really cool because it takes electricity and it makes it burn into the wood. And then a lot of people use this as like furnishes or finishings in like at-home projects, and I just think it's so cool. And this is seriously the first thing that I thought of when we started the electric potential and energy units, is what this is, because you're taking potential energy and you are transferring it to thermal energy, which in an LOL would be kinetic energy transferred to thermal energy, because it's also releasing heat as well. And then because there's a potential difference between the wires and the wood, and then the wood and the water, it just flows through and creates that really cool design. And that's how electric wood art is made in physics.